Okay, a few students asked me questions about simultaneous equations. So I'm going to do a video here about one that doesn't work out as nicely maybe as other ones have. I'm going to do it a few different ways. You just decide whichever way seems to make the most sense to you and go with that method. So what I'm going to start off with here is I'm going to look at my two lines and I'm going to imagine adding my two lines. So what would happen if I added a 1x and a 2x? I'd get a 3x. What happens if I add a 2y and then subtract a 1y? Now maybe you'd like to put in 1 there. That's up to yourself. You know, if you have an apple, we don't tell everyone, oh, I have 1 apple. You just say, oh, I have an apple. So if you have an x, we're assuming that you have 1 of them. We're assuming that you're down 1 of them here. So again, if you imagine adding that, it'd give me 3x. And that would give me a plus 1y. And that doesn't get rid of any of the x's or the y's for me, which is the usual method that you probably have been looking at when I'd be doing a question. This is the usual method I would use. So if none of the x's or the y's cancel off, I can't actually continue on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my two lines and I'm going to try and cancel the y's. But in order to do that, I'm going to have to multiply the bottom line by a number. So if you multiply, and this is where you could just trial and error this, or you can imagine doing it and see what happens. But if you multiply the bottom line by a 3, you'd end up with 6x minus 3y equals minus 3. Would your y's cancel off there? No. If you multiply the bottom line by a 4 or a minus 4, imagine, or actually do it if you need to. Because I've done so many of these, if I want the y's to cancel off, I need opposites of each other. Like I need a plus 2y and a minus 2y. Like if you're up €5 and you lose €5, they're opposites of each other. They cancel each other out. They're inverses of each other, whatever way you want to say it. So I'm going to multiply this whole bottom line by the number 2. And when I do that, my bottom line, because it's an equation, I must multiply the left by a 2 and the right by a 2 in order to keep it balanced. I'd end up with 4x minus 2y equals minus 2. And I'm going to leave my top line exactly as it is. Now I hope I've explained why I chose 2 there. I need opposites here. Now, when I go to add these, I get 5x. When I go to add these, they're opposites, they cancel each other out. If you're up 2y and you lose 2y, you have 0. And then 12 minus 2 gives me 10. 5 times what number gives you 10? Missing number was 2. If you want to go back to the start here, x plus 2y equals 12. We now know that x is a 2. So, whatever way you want to do this, maybe you want to tell a story. Well, I had a missing number, I multiplied it by 2, I added 2 and I got 12. What's the missing number? Or you could use your rules of equations. Okay, so first missing number was x, second missing number was y, a 2 and a 5. I'm going to do that by a different method now. Okay, maybe instead of the y's cancelling out, you want to make the x's cancel out. So this is a 1x. You can put in the 1s if you want to. You don't need to, but you can if you want. Eventually you'll get used to not maybe doing it, but you can at the start if you want. Now, in order for the x's to cancel out, if I want them to be like, this is a plus 2x, well, what's the opposite of a plus 2x? It's a minus 2x. So I'm going to take that top line, I'm going to multiply it by a minus 2. So I end up with minus 2x on my top line, minus 4y equals minus 24. And on the bottom line, I have 2x minus 1y equals minus 1. And again, I try and add my lines. If you are down 2x and then you're up 2x, you're on 0. If you're down 4y and you lose another 1y, you're down 5y. And then if you're down 24 and you lose a 1, you're down 25. So minus 5 times what number gives you minus 25? Or there's loads of ways of doing it, but you'd end up with 5, sorry. So a minus 5 times a 5 gives you minus 25. And then you just go back to your top line. You have 1x plus 2y equals 12. You now know that y is 5. So 2y is 2 multiplied by y. Subtract 10 from both sides. And you end up with x equals 2. Last way I'm going to do this, I want to show you a third method. I want you to have loads of options. You just decide whichever option is the best one for you. Okay. What does the symbol equals mean? It means the same as. 2 plus 5 is the same as 6 plus 1. 2 plus 5 is the same as 7. 2 plus 5 is the same as 8 minus 1. You know, it just means it's the same as, or it's equal to, or the result is. So I'm going to take my top line and I'm going to get the x on its own because it's almost on its own. I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. Now maybe you won't like this method, you'll never ever use it. That's fine. You know, just turn off the computer. If you feel happy, or turn off the video. If you feel happy with the ones that we've already looked at, then you don't need another method. This is just for people who don't like the previous methods, mightn't fully understand them, and just might want a different option. Or it's for people who just really would like different options in maths, or want to maybe try Leaving Cert Higher level maths, and this is a type of method that's used at Leaving Cert Higher level as well. Both methods are, so do whatever suits you. Don't overwhelm yourself with information unnecessarily. So now what do I know? X is the same as 12 minus 2y. So I'm going to take my second equation, and anywhere I see an x, so there's my second equation. Anywhere I see an x, which is here, I'm going to replace it with 12 minus 2y. Multiply it out, I end up with 24 minus 4y minus a y equals minus 1. That's 24 minus 5y equals minus 1. I'm going to add 5y to both sides. 24 equals minus 1 plus 5y. Add 1 to both sides and end up with 25 is equal to 5y. Y is equal to 5. And off you go and go back to your top line and go, right, if y is 5, oh, x must be 2.